Hey everyone and welcome back to another video. Today's video is about Street Fighter V and the recent announcement of Street Fighter V Season 5, or Season V as they're calling it. With this new season of content, Capcom have announced that they are going to be releasing 5 new characters for the 5th and final season of Street Fighter V DLC. This is perfect for me to give a top 5 list for the characters I would like to see added, and as usual we'll go through the honourable mentions later on. Let's get into it. Before I begin with the list, I would like to outline a few things. I'm not exactly considering the likelihood of the characters in this wish list. This is purely a list of characters from past Street Fighter games that I would like to see return. I also won't be including guest characters in my top 5 wish list unless they have already been in other Street Fighter titles. With that out of the way, let's get into the list now. At number 5 we have Makoto. I'm not sure how Capcom are going to handle the Season 5 characters. Are they going to choose fan favourites, new guests, or just straight up new characters like Gill and Falke? Anyway, there's some strong arguments for and against Makoto that I want to highlight. Firstly, I want to say that I don't think that Capcom are going to add Makoto into Street Fighter V. Whilst it definitely is possible, Seth uses a lot of moves and animations that Makoto uses, and even though her iconic karate attacks such as Hayate, Orochi and Karakusa are still available, I still don't think that she will be added. In case you don't know, those 3 attacks are her dash punch, close range karate chop and command grab respectively. I think for Season 5 I would like to see a mix of new playstyles and aesthetics in the game. Whilst visually Makoto doesn't stand out any more than someone like Ryu for example, I would think that Makoto has a lot of interesting gameplay that would simply be very fun to play. Rushdown isn't necessarily my style in Street Fighter, but Makoto has some really interesting and cool looking moves that are unique given that she's a more grounded in reality character. So yeah, Makoto is a fan favourite no doubt, and I don't think any of the characters in Street Fighter V are karate users to my knowledge. Anyway, I would love to see a little design touch up for this character, and I think she could have a lot of interesting gameplay options. At number 4 I'm going to bring in Dan Hibiki, another fan favourite, although for different reasons. I'm mostly indifferent when it comes to Shoto characters. They can be a bit of random fun, but the only one I've ever played long term is Sakura, and even though I'm really bad with him, I also like Kage in Street Fighter V. Anyway, I wanted to include a Shoto character because they can be very fun and they're incredibly easy to pick up for most players. However, I didn't want to include more than one Shoto character on this list, so I ultimately decided to go with Dan Hibiki. I think I prefer Sean over Dan as a character and his overall design, but where the story is in Street Fighter V, Sean is not a fighter, so unfortunately it wouldn't make sense for him to be in the game at all. I'm not completely against joke characters, but when a character's entire purpose, or at least the vast majority of their purpose, is to be a joke, then I'm not really on board with that. That's one of the reasons Dan is so far down on this list. The other reason is because whilst I can enjoy Shoto characters, they're not very exciting overall. I think Street Fighter V has done a great job making each Shoto character as unique as possible, so that's why I have confidence that they can do a good job with a character like Dan. Again, touch up his design, give him some more stuff in his moveset and he'll be great. At number 3 we have Oro. Oro is a character I'd never played before working on this video, but ever since the first time I saw him I was really interested in him. Oro is a hermit who has mastered the secrets of immortality. He has a very unique visual style, and I think he is another character who is mentioned within some of the Street Fighter V stories. Because of his visual design, I think out of all characters on this list, Oro would be the hardest to transition into Street Fighter V, but it is definitely possible and I doubt Capcom would get it wrong. I for one am a very big fan of many of the character redesigns in Street Fighter V. Anyway, as I said, I don't know too much about this character, especially when it comes to his gameplay, but I've always been interested in playing as him. I mean, the guy is so strong that he actually binds an arm down to make a fight more balanced. I love that type of stuff. The number 2 and number 1 spots had a lot of conflict for me. I kept switching between the two, but I decided that Hakan, a Street Fighter 4 newcomer, deserved the 2nd place spot. Whenever newcomers are added to the Street Fighter series, I say that most of the time they are negatively received, with only a few managing to stick around for future installations. Hakan is probably the former. I don't know the full opinion on Hakan, and even though his visual design and personality is quite strange, he is still written as a fairly serious character, definitely more so than Dan. Hakan also has a unique mechanic where he can oil himself up, which gives him various bonuses. To my knowledge, this is the thing that held Hakan back, as he had to buff himself and maintain that buff throughout the fight to be at his strongest. With a small design touch up, Hakan could work very well in Street Fighter V as this mechanic is shared similarly with another character, G. G also uses a level up mechanic to enhance his attacks in certain ways. I'd be really interested in seeing Hakan return. He may not be a fan favourite for one reason or another, but I only have to point towards the infiltration comeback at EVO 2013 to justify my point. Finally, we have reached the number 1 spot on my list. As I said before, this character and Hakan were neck and neck, but I ultimately decided to give the top spot to Dudley, one of my favourite Street Fighter characters. There are multiple reasons I want to see Dudley, and he's not a character that is impossible. In fact, I'd say he's more likely than the Hakan and Dan to enter the game. I really enjoyed the gentlemanly demeanour Dudley portrays in his aesthetic, and despite Street Fighter V already having 2 boxing characters, I still think there's a good argument for Dudley. For one, his gameplay is drastically different to both Balrog and Ed. He feels a bit like a blend of the two when we consider only the speed and power in their boxing ability. Also, I don't really like Balrog and I don't think he's all too much fun to watch, so I would love to see Smug, possibly my favourite Street Fighter pro, make a big return with this character. Lots of people like Dudley and I do as well. Bring back some of those crazy combos he can do, much like how Capcom went all out with characters like Gill and Seth. There's not much more I want to say about Dudley, but check out this picture of him. This is a Street Fighter V mod and I honestly thought this was real because of how well he fits into the game. So yeah, Dudley may yet be another boxing character in a game with 2 boxers already, but he fulfills a unique playstyle. Where Balrog is all about fast, powerful blows and Ed is about quick strikes enhanced with his psychic ability, Dudley is a more technical fighter who strings together long combos with speed and precision. Before I end this video, I would like to go through some honourable mentions, some characters I still want to mention even if they didn't make it into my main list. Each character here has some reason I didn't choose them over the others in the main list, which I will also highlight, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about these characters. Firstly, Sean. I mentioned this guy earlier and I left him off the list because firstly he doesn't fit into the story at this time, and also I didn't want more than one Shoto fighter on my list. I wanted to include more of a mix of playstyles. That's the main reason Sean missed out, but I'm a strong advocate to see him return in future Street Fighter games. Next is Sea Viper. Sea Viper has appeared a few times in some of the character stories in Street Fighter V, so she is active in that respect. I'm personally not a fan of the female secret agent archetype, gives me some major Black Widow vibes, but I really like some of Sea Viper's moves and I think she would look great in Street Fighter V. Also, she has a distinct and unique playstyle that I think could fit very well into this game. I'm actually quite confident that Sea Viper will be added to the game, but only time will tell. Next, I want to mention a character who honestly could have been at or near the top of my main list. His name is Eagle. Now, I didn't know about this character until I did some research for this video, but this character looks so good to me. I love everything about this guy's design, he just looks great visually. From very basic research, this guy is an English bouncer whose fighting style is Bojutsu. I just want to say that the only reason Eagle didn't make it onto my main list is because I know nothing about this character really. Like I said, I never even heard of him before working on this video. But anyway, I would be interested in seeing more weapon users in Street Fighter, since that's something that this game doesn't really have much of. Off the top of my head, there's Falke, Poison, and I guess Menat would count, and that's excluding V-trigger weapons such as Cody and Lucia. And yeah, since I've never played as Eagle before, I have no idea if I would actually like him gameplay wise. But yeah, that's the only reason that Eagle missed out on my main list, because once again, I absolutely love the way this guy looks. Next up is Rose. Rose is another fan favourite character who is also referenced many times in Street Fighter V, so she also has a good chance of entering the game in my opinion. I'm not all for having 2 female, psychic, telekinetic characters, but I do prefer the overall look and feel of Rose over Menat, so we'll just have to see. Another character I hadn't heard of prior to working on this list is Sodom. Unlike Eagle, however, I've heard some others mention this character a lot, so he's clearly a fan favourite. Since I know nothing about this guy, I can't really argue for or against this guy, but he looks really unique, so again, we'll just have to see if he gets added and if he's for me. And my last honourable mention, another very popular character, and her name is Elena. I say popular and not fan favourite because Elena has somewhat of a negative reception, particularly for her gameplay in Street Fighter 4 with her healing ability. Anyway, I included Elena here because I think she has an interesting fighting style and overall aesthetic, and I think that Capcom won't make the same mistake with this character as they did in Street Fighter 4. I'd be open to a bit of a design change too, since I'm not the biggest fan of this character's original design, but I'd be okay if they still stuck with it. Once again, this character missed out on my main list since I don't know very much about her, as I haven't really gotten to know her all too much. I didn't even say everything I wanted to say, and yet the honourable mentions still dragged on much further than I initially expected, so I apologise for that. I'm really happy that Street Fighter V is getting more support and content for the next year, so I'm happy with any character to be added, honestly. Even some DLC characters that I didn't expect to necessarily like, I still found enjoyment out of. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video, thanks for sticking around until the end, it really means a lot to me. I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye guys.